It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Wednesday, November 26th, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube. Do not follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have the world news, evangelism word study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? It's a wonderful and awesome Wednesday. We've already hit the midweek. Hope you guys are enjoying the last week of November. Don't forget, tomorrow we have Q&A Thursday, and every single week, so get those questions ready. Send them to me whenever you can, and if you haven't yet, please leave a like and comment to build our community. Just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. This week's Sunday message title is, "You are chosen only if your heart is like the one that is choosing." Amen. So it is Wednesday. We do have another service tonight. Looking forward to today's message. I hope that everyone has enjoyed this week's message. Very powerful and very deep too. It's been a wonderful week already for myself. We had the Monday Zoom Bible study. I did Satan Principle. I haven't, just teaching in general, I haven't done in a long time, but very, very thankful and grateful that I was able to teach that lesson after years and years. But it's more of, it's still, even though I'm going deep into it, and I'm probably going to be ending that lecture pretty soon because, I'm not going to go all the way to times, and half time. Not everyone is ready for that anyways, but I think I'm going to just start take a break for December. Like maybe next week will be the last one or the week after that. And also I was thinking, like, maybe if there's like newcomers that are really good, I'll be doing the individual Bible studies for those people, whichever country they're in anyways. But that is something that I am thinking that I should be doing for these people that I have been doing the Zoom Bible studies for. But yeah, it's been really good. There's a couple of newcomers that are very, very good, strong, going forward and going into even the deeper lessons to maybe they can finish by the end of this year, maybe, but not sure. We're already December next week, so there's no need to rush people into it also, because that's something that's very, very unnecessary too. But it's interesting. We're already at the end of the year. I am very, very thankful and very grateful. And it's November 26th, which means we're less than a month away from Christmas, which is kind of crazy too. But I am hoping hope you guys have had an amazing 2025 and an amazing, November. And I hope that we'll really, really be able to gain a lot more from tonight's Wednesday service also. Oh, I have some crazy news. Okay, so this is something that I didn't even believe that was true. So I'm still checking it every single day. But remember I told you guys that I was at the coffee show last week, right? And then during the coffee show, what happened was I was like standing in line for like an hour or so at this Japanese cafe, and I ordered a coffee, and it ended up being like 90 Canadian dollars. Remember I told you about that? And I was like, oh my gosh, I had sticker shock, everything else. Okay, so I just checked my recent statement, and now there is the charges are gone. Like, it's not even pending. It doesn't even register on my card. And I was like, wait, what is going on? And when what happens is like for me, there's pending charges, and then there's like the charges went through. So last week, I was like under pending charges. I was like, oh, so there's the $90 charge for this Japanese place. But now I check my credit card statement. There is no pending charge. So even, what do you call it? Even the pending charge is gone itself. There is no charge whatsoever. So I'm like, did I just get a free cup of coffee? Like a $90 cup of coffee. I was like going, is this real? And I even checked it. Why am I sniffing? Guys, this is so weird. I'm in my bedroom right now, and it smells like coffee. that is like, I'm starting to smell like coffee, I guess. But either way, so I'm like even more thankful to God that it looks like right now that I got a free $90 cup of coffee, and I was just like, whoa, this is so crazy. And even when you look at your balance, like the credit card balance, sometimes it doesn't show. Even though the number doesn't show, you'll see the number off like the remaining balance. Like, oh, you have this much left on your limit, but I have nothing. Zero. So I'm very, very happy, excited. I'm like, wow, I just saved like $90 on that cup of coffee. But then I also feel pretty bad because if my charge didn't go through, I'm wondering how many other cards that they were doing didn't go through. Because think about this, guys. In order to charge for a $90 cup of coffee, it means they paid an exorbitant amount for their beans, right? Just to be able to charge $90, they paid an exorbitant amount just for the beans. But if the charge doesn't go through, they're losing money. So I kind of feel bad about this too. But I also am very, very grateful, thankful to God that God saved me from the $90 cup of coffee. And then remember, I told you guys too, is not only did I get the $90 cup of coffee, but then remember, I got these really, really expensive beans. Someone over there gave me like 100 grams of it, which is the same price as the coffee itself, which means that God is like blessing me even more kind of thing. So I'm very thankful. And I think this is what I'm thinking to myself, guys. It's because of all the lecturing that's going on. I feel because of the lecturing, this is why God is blessing me. And, since God is because it's kind of like God is cleaning up and God is judging at the end of the year. We're going to go through the crappy things. We're going to have to repent and do this and that. However, the things that you do well, God will bless you with those things too. So I was just like, well, thank you so much, God. God bless me with one of the greatest, I can't even say greatest coffee presents, right? So yes, guys, $90 cup of coffee I got for free. For those of you guys in the US, it's roughly about $67, $68 US for one cup of coffee, which is basically, I think it turns out to be like 5 ounces. It was really small, but very grateful and thankful. So that is kind of the good news. Well, I guess not great news, but good news. And I just wanted to share that with you guys because you guys are on my coffee journey with me. Like I was saying, the Zoom studies, I'm going to probably do it for one more week and then take a break until 2026. And I'm probably going to have some more conversations with people in Asia. Because what I find is these Zoom Bible studies are way more effective in Asia than they are in the Western countries. Now, what does that mean? It basically means that in the past, when I was going to start these Zoom Bible studies, one of the things that I found is that when I tried to start these in like the Western countries, the time zones are all over the place. There's not enough manpower. So like what they told me the reality is they may not even have a single newcomer. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, oh, should I put my time into this or not? In Asia, like I told you guys, just the beginning point, I gave people 2 weeks to evangelize. It started off with 4 newcomers, which personally I think is a lot. And then it kept growing. It went to 12, it went to 20, it went to 30, 40, and now we're like at 2 Bible studies with over 50 newcomers doing it right now. And part of the reason is Asia is basically all in the same time zone. Right? They're only like 1 to 2 hours off. And then on top of it, there's a lot of manpower. So it's very, very easy to find more and more newcomers over here. So that's why for me, I was just like, yeah, it's these Zoom types of Bible studies. And because of the lack of English, what do you call it? English lecturers. Because of that, it's actually a lot, it's actually more needed in the Asian countries than in the Western countries. Like, think about it. In the Western countries, am I the only lecturer? No, there's lots of lecturers. Each church has their own lecturers and such too. And then, like someone might say is like, well, Pastor Sky, are you considered one of the better lecturers? I'm like, a lot of it is very subjective too. Subjective meaning, some people like this lecturer, some people like that lecturer. When you go to a place that has more options, it's different. But in Asia, there's not very many options. And that's why I find I find that doing these lectures in Asia is far more effective, right? Doing the Zoom type ones, right? And that's why I even think like even if I go over to America, I should keep doing the Bible studies online. The only hard part is going to be I'm going to be halfway around the world, which means that let's say that if I want to do an 8 p.m. Korea 8 p.m. Bible study, that would mean I would be doing it like 6 a.m. in like say the East Coast of New York and 3 a.m. in like the West Coast of Vancouver. You know what I mean? So when I look at that, I was like, oh, that's going to be really, really difficult. And then I'd have to think to myself is when will be the better time to do it? And I would probably say is like I think the only other option would be like Saturday mornings, right? Saturday mornings would be like 8 p.m. on a Friday. Oh, but that's like Providence Bible School. But 8 p.m. on a Friday would be 10 a.m. in Korea and stuff like that too. Or I would have to just pre-record it, which is, I would say you still lose that feeling if it's not live kind of thing. So it is something that needs to be discussed. It is something that I have to think about and what is going to be the best way to do these Bible studies also. But yeah, so it is something that I am thinking about. It's something that is in my heart and in my mind, and I hope it's something that I will be able to get done. I'm really hoping that I can still do it too. So yeah, lots of things to think about. A lot of things that I do want to think about the future also. Oh, but I had an interesting conversation because now, we're working on these newcomers that are going to be, yesterday's lecture that's going to be, about the newcomers that are getting into the advanced and the ones that are doing really well. And I had an interesting conversation with one of the evangelists, and we were just discussing because this is something that I think is a frequent worry for a lot of people who are evangelizing, and like the newcomer really wants to get married, and they want to find someone, and for me, like the evangelists, obviously they're more worried about it, right? And for me, I'm not as worried about it because to me, I'm just like, man, if you're like late 20s and, I think that's a normal thing to want to get married. And it makes a ton of sense, especially at that age and the culture that this person is from Latin America, where the focus is really on the family, right? It's a very, very normal thing. Actually, for a lot of Latin countries, late 20s is late to get married and such. So the big question came in is like, how do you take care of these people? How do you educate them? How do you make sure they don't get a boyfriend or a girlfriend? Or how do you make sure they don't fall in love or this or that? And I would say that the proper answer to this is you can't. You can't control it. You can't control people, right? And like that's something that it's a hard, tough thing. And I think a lot of parents will understand this very, very deeply. Is you love your kids, you want the best for them, but in the end, you can't control them. They're going to do what they want. Think about it. If you have kids in their late 20s, do you really think you can control them? Like make them or tell them to do something? No, you can give them advice, but in the end, they have to do their own thing, right? And what I was thinking is like, I think the very first thing that we need to realize is just free will. Like, look at how God looks at us. God has given us free will, and even God, even though he knows what is right and what is wrong, he teaches us what is right and what is wrong. But because he understands free will, it's not like he stops us from doing those things. We might get inspired, we might have the thoughts, but in the end, we have to make that decision, right? And for myself, when they were asking me, like, how do people deal with this? And I was like, I've seen so many different ways on how people deal with this. Some are very, very good, and some are like, I looked at it, I was like, wow, that's a terrible way of doing it because it was really forceful and strong. You can't have a girlfriend, God will be upset, like that type of thing. And, like I've even seen in some other countries, like I remember when I was was it Japan? Japanese members? Like if there was a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is, like I remember, I'm not saying this is all of Japan, but I saw some, like I've seen it multiple times with some Japanese people who evangelize, that they would just teach the fall right away. Like at the very, very beginning. if that was happening. Now, personally, I don't think that's a good way because it's such a deep lesson that it loses the impact in the future. And it could be, if you teach someone something too deep too early, then it puts a lot of pressure on the newcomer, especially if they, think about the guilt they'll feel that they're committing the worst sin, the original sin, right? And like I'm sure a lot of you would say like, oh yeah, that's probably not the right way to do it. However, I'm not going to say that in that individual situation that it was the wrong thing to do, because sometimes we pray and we're asking God and the Holy Spirit will inspire us to do it that way. Right? And then it works. Do you know what I mean? Or it's the way that, like that's the way that God is inspired. So that's why you can't really say that there's a wrong way in every individual situation, circumstance. Where it becomes wrong is when we say, oh, someone tried this, so let's try the same thing. And it's a huge difference of someone who is praying for the newcomer, setting a condition, and then they receive the inspiration, do it this way, and then they do it, is completely different than someone saying, oh, they did it this way, let's try the same thing. Do you know what I mean? So when it comes to individual situations and circumstances, I can see why, I can never say something is wrong, because what if they prayed for it? What if the Holy Spirit actually gave them the direction, right? What I can say is wrong is if you didn't set the condition or prayer, or you're just following what other people are doing when other people's situation, circumstance might be much more for that individual, not for the general whole. Do you know what I mean? So there are unique and special situations, and I don't think that, generally speaking, there are these very strong and harsh ways of doing it. And I think it's very, like, if it's unique and special, I understand. But if it's something that you continuously keep doing, I think that's something that you have to think twice about, right? And I would say that just that situation, I don't think it should be used for most newcomers at all, right? That's like, this is, please don't misunderstand when I say this. It almost feels like we use the word as a controlling weapon. Do you know what I mean? Because it's out of sync, it's out of order. It's an advanced lesson so deep, but to use it just for that thing so that they break up or this or that, I think that's kind of like not manipulating. It's using the word in the wrong way, just from my personal opinion. That's just what I'm saying, right? It shouldn't be used for general situations, more for unique, special situations, right? And like personally, I don't think we can make people realize. I don't think we can make people do things and force them into it. And I don't think we should use the word as that type of a tool either. I just think that the best way that they're going to understand and take action is when they realize on their own. Like, I see that as the best way of doing it, right? Like, you know what? People, this is the world. People who are teaching the word to, they're coming from the world. And having a boyfriend and girlfriend is part of the world. They're going to want one. That's a normal thing, right? And we need to do our best and be patient, knowing that we can't stop it. And, and we shouldn't get too desperate and too like, oh my gosh, what do we do? Like, what if they fall before they finish the word? And my answer is, you can't stop it. And you shouldn't get desperate to stop it, because in the end, the ultimate thing is salvation. So let's just to understand how important salvation is in the end, what would you rather have, right? What would you rather have? Someone who doesn't commit the fall but doesn't receive salvation, or someone who commits the fall but then in the end they do receive salvation? And I think all of us would be pretty, 100% are going to say, I would rather have someone who gets saved in the end, right? I think that's what we'd all want in the end, right? And it's kind of like when a lot of blessed families, they're raising second gens, right? Now, can you, when these, we have these expectation of second gens, like they have to be pure, they have to be perfect, they need to know the word, they know this and that, like everything. We have all these expectations of second gen. But when you really think about it, even though we have these expectations of second gen, do you think all second gens are pure? All second gens haven't committed the fall? All second gens are still in profit? Like, no. We see the reality of the world, and it's usually the parents who have second gen are the ones that realize reality, and they're like, yeah, this is what's going to happen. We can't force it. We're not going to force them to do this or force them to do that. We're just going to do this, and we're going to just love them and treat them well. And when the time comes, all we want in the end is for them to be saved, right? And I think that's kind of the attitude we need. But sometimes we kind of get too desperate, like, oh, they must be perfect. Oh, if they don't have perfection, then this. If they don't have perfection, then what's the point? And the answer is, most of us come into Providence imperfect. We just do. It's just part of life. We all come into Providence imperfect. And we can't expect that everyone's going to come in absolutely perfect and only find someone that is like this or like that. And I think that would make it even harder. Because in that case, would Paul even come, would Paul even be in Christianity if Jesus chose by perfection? Because he was killing Christians and slandering Jesus, which is the worst sin, right? It's even worse than the fall. I would say that's worse than the fall. I would say. Because at least with the fall, before you've learned the word, that's something you didn't know, right? But when you slander and you kill, like that's something I'm like, wouldn't that be a little bit worse? So when I was thinking about this, like, yeah, we have to be patient. We have to be understanding. We need to know that, yeah, God is loving. God wants to save everyone, and we have to have the same heart, which I think is like perfect with this week's message. Because this week's message is about what? This week's message is about God choosing by the heart, which means it's not about our skills. It's not about us doing everything perfectly. We make mistakes. We do this and we do that, and that's why it's happened in this way, and this is why it's this is why. And we're like, oh, no wonder. You know what I mean? Like, God is choosing us that even when we sin and make mistakes, he still sees our heart that really wants to follow and love him, that doesn't want to make mistakes, that doesn't want to do this or that, but we really, really want to come to him with that full heart, right? And when God sees that, that's what matters more to God. And I think that we have to be the ones that when we see these newcomers come in, think about it. When they're learning the Bible, they're not even born spiritually yet. Do you know what I mean? They're still in the womb. They're still in the womb. They're not even born. Their spiritual eyes haven't even opened yet when they haven't passed, right? When they haven't realized. They're just kind of being made in the stomach. So we have to kind of look at it from that perspective and not get too strong, too aggressive, right? But we have to be those that are way more understanding, more empathetic, have more compassion. Right? And when we lead people, we're leading them. We are not forcing them or making them. We lead them, and we should do it in a proper way, right? Not forcing it. Like, even for me, what I would say is the best way for a person to learn is when they learn from God, right? So through the word, they'll learn like, oh, wow, that makes sense. Oh, okay. Oh, God spoke to me. This is something that I should think about too, kind of thing, right? So there's one way, right? And the second thing we need to understand is, yeah, there's one way that we need to understand it. And I think that's better, teaching it through the word as the word is teaching us, compared to us like sitting down, counseling them and telling them, don't do this. You shouldn't have this. God doesn't want you to have to do, have a boyfriend or girlfriend. Like that kind of thing, I think it feels too personal. When it comes from God, that's God speaking to my heart. It's not someone saying to me, it's God speaking to me. Right? So that's why for me is like, I would never tell someone, hey, you shouldn't date, you should break up kind of thing. But if I was teaching the word, and this is what the word is talking about through the purpose of creation lecture or another lesson, then I would be able to lecture and teach that we need to make ourselves first before meeting someone else kind of thing. Like that's the way that I would probably do it more than the other way around. But yeah, it was a really good conversation. And I hope it's something that we can really like not get too crazy about, but we'll be those that will really understand God that much better, and will have that mentality and mindset that is willing to understand that sometimes we just got to let go. We just do. Got to let go because we're not there to control. We're there to deliver the word, and they get to choose what they want to do with their own lives, right? We help them out, we lead them along the way, but in the end, they make their own decision, kind of thing, right? So yeah, it was a good conversation. I hope it's something that it makes you guys think a lot more deeply too about the newcomers that you have. But I hope that all of us will really be even stronger and more wiser and be able to think about these things too, about what is the most reasonable and best way. And I would say, in the end, the best and most reasonable way, just like these unique and special circumstances, pray about it, get the answer from God, and do it the way that God wants, not according to what you feel and the desperation you have in your heart. Okay? So there it is, guys. That is today's segment number 1. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Before we get into the evangelism word study, let's move into the first music break of the day.
道を行かせてもっと良い道を探すようにされた私が歩むこの道は新しい歴史の道だった神様の中で生きる生の価値と望みを失わずにどんな困難に襲われても命の道を主と共に歩もう神の創造目的なしたこの生を奪われず生きよう光の世界にいる人たちは昼にすべきことを考え生きる夜の暗闇にいる人たちは夜にすべきことを考え生きるこの世界は永遠な世界のために創造されたものだから暗闇から抜け出して永遠な命の道へ行こう神様をもっと愛するなら心の目が開かれて神が構想した神秘的な世界を悟るようになるだろうそこには愛と義と光の黄金天国が広がってる神様の中で生きる生の価値と望みを失わずにどんな困難に襲われても命の道を主と共に歩もう神の創造目的なしたこの生を奪われず生きよう神様をもっと愛するなら心の目が開かれて神が構想した神秘的な世界を悟るようになるだろうそこには愛と義と光の黄金
All right, so let's get into today's evangelism word study. And yes, we're getting into the final week. Well, like we have a half week left for November, and we're going to get straight into December by Monday, right? So, one of the things that people do need to start thinking about now, because we do have another semester starting in January. Well, I think it depends on which country you're in, because I know that in Asian countries, like Asian countries, I think that the semester or like the year begins in January, February, while in the Western countries, the semester or the year begins in September, which is really interesting. Like it's so different how we have our years, right? How the start and the end of the year is, because for us, it's always about the summer. The summer is when we have our break and then we get back into a new year kind of thing in September again, right? And I was thinking like, okay, so now that we have like a little bit over a month left before we go into a new evangelism, and on top of it, especially for us, we're crazy busy, mainly because we have the 15 days of giving glory to God while this new year is beginning. Okay, so we're like, oh my gosh, we're busy. We got New Year's, we got 15 days of giving glory to God. Before that, we have Christmas, we have this and that. We have a ton of things going on, right? And especially for those guys who saw, like, I think next year's theme is the year of running, or the year to run kind of thing. So what needs to happen now is we got to get because evangelism is going to be such a big thing, we kind of got to organize ourselves really well and to be able to do evangelism in an organized manner, right? In an organized manner. Because there is a lot to think about and a lot to do. And we need to make sure that we're doing things in a way that is fitting and organized for evangelism to happen in like a good way, right? So I'm saying that we got to start coming with a plan, right? And especially for those who are doing campus evangelism, I really believe it's time to finally make a plan that fits, like, we have to make a plan that fits a campus timeline. And you got to think about all the things that we need to do, this strategy for this semester. Because I think we think too much of, hey, we gotta do Bible study, and then after Bible study, Bible studies can take about 6 months, maybe up to a year. But we have to think about in terms of semesters. I think looking at it in terms of semesters is much easier, like 3.5 months, right? Because there are several things that have to happen. Like number one is, at the beginning of the semester, what happens? Right, there's a big push for all the campus clubs and stuff. You're going to have a booth day, and you're basically at the very beginning. You have a lot of fresh people who are getting back into school. It's kind of a huge evangelism push, usually for the first 2 to 3 weeks, right? Where it's all evangelism, gathering as many people as possible, right? And I think we need to think to ourselves as not just, oh, we've gathered a ton of people, so what do we do with them? Are we going to send them straight into individual Bible studies? I think that doesn't make sense for campus people, right? Because we need to bring them and gather them together, get all that energy together. What are we going to do? We got to have a meeting. We got to introduce people to the club, introduce people to what we're doing, right? And then we have to think about not just Bible studies, but how are we going to take care of these people for the entire semester, which means you'll have your weekly hangouts, whether you're eating, playing sports, going to watch movies, game nights, and like small groups that are happening at someone's house and something along that line, where it's going to be like a two-month thing. Right, a 2-month thing where it happens once a week or twice a week or whatever, like one official thing once a week, and people can get together, they can relax, they can do a little bit of Bible study and then move into something else, right? And this is what they normally do in the former faith. You go to a member's house, you talk and chill, and you do the stuff that these campus, they're kids. Something they really want to. They want to have fun. They don't want to just always hang out in church and only do church things, right? Like we got to provide those types of things. And you have to think about your church and what is your church able to provide for these students. Do you know what I mean? What can you provide for these students that will make them want to be part of this community, right? Just doing Bible study is definitely not enough, because then they're no longer going to be looking at us as a community, but just to come for Bible study, but to have fun and do all the other things, they're just going to go hang out with their friends and do that just going to do that instead. And we can't be thinking that way. We have to be thinking in a different way. It's like, yeah, we need to provide a community for them so that they'll have a place to go, that they'll have a place to have fun. They're going to get to know all the members, right? And, this is something you have to think about is when you have these hangouts, it can't be just a bunch of old people that are not in campus that are there. You got to have a ton of people from campus there. Like people on campus enjoying, having fun, doing things together, game nights, movie nights, this and that, whatever it is, so that they'll have a fun thing to do besides Bible study itself, right? They need time to counsel also, where you can counsel people going through difficult times and such, right? And that's something where we're managing in all areas for these students, right? And then, of course, you'll have to think about the next stage, which means to invite to service, right? And this is where churches are going to have to start thinking about, are we going to start newcomer services, right? Newcomer services, which means that sometimes your praise team needs to prepare like former faith songs too, right? Or you might not have a full praise team and just a guitarist or whatever it is. And we just got to realize that sometimes, a lot of people do feel that our services are not for newcomers, that we do need a newcomer service also, which means we're going to have to find a plan that goes from gathering people in the first 3 weeks, bringing them together, having fun, even though sometimes it might feel like it's a little bit too physical. But technically speaking, we go way too spiritual. Like we need everything for them. These are campus kids. They want fun. They want spiritual. They want meaning. They want all these things, but they need people that they can hang out and trust with, right? So we need to find the management activities and stuff that we do with them besides Bible studies. And I would say that, we shouldn't even bring people into individual Bible studies until we first discern them through the big groups, seeing what they're like, seeing what they do, how they respond to the group Bible studies and stuff like that too, right? And then you have to think about the next stage is, do you guys have a newcomer service ready? And here's the thing that gets kind of interesting, because I know that some churches do like newcomer services once a month, right? Which I understand but imagine you make a newcomer service that's great and it's something that, these newcomers really love it and they want to come back the next week. Then you're like, oh my gosh, we need to do it again next week kind of thing, right? And that's why it's something that people need to plan ahead of time. We really, really need to plan ahead. Because if we don't plan ahead, we're going to get ourselves stuck in a position where we cannot provide for them what they actually need. You know what I mean? So that's why it's something where we do need to make a plan for the next, for the first semester that starts in January. That's probably going to end. It probably starts end of January. So it'll be February, March, April. Maybe it ends in May or something along that line, right? And that's something that I do think we're going to have to really, really think about, is if we really want to have good evangelism, we need to have a great evangelism plan. And also that plan is going to, we need to be able to think about and provide for these young newcomers what they actually need more than just Bible study. And I think that's going to be something where we really need to start planning well ahead of time. Right? So yeah, there's a bunch of things that I've been thinking about, and I'm like, yeah, as this new semester comes, we got to do this in a new semester way. 2026, it's the year to run. Let's make sure that we can do it in a powerful and awesome way. Okay, so yeah, that's what I want to talk about for the Evangelism Word Study. Hope it's something that can bring new ideas to you guys too. If you have any questions or anything else, please put in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And if not, then before we get into the world news, let's move into the final music break of the day.
It's 1978. This feeling is so great. The word you preach amazes me. But why do I feel this fate? Ooh. let this start. It's 1978. This feeling is so great. The word you preach amazes me. But why do I feel this fate? It's 1978. This feeling is so great. The word you preach amazes me. But why do I feel this fate? This feeling will never get old, like the first time we've been together. As long as you don't lose this love, that love will last forever. And as much as I know you're the best thing in my life, I will always tell you that I love you every time. It's 1978. This feeling is so great. The word you preach amazes me. But why do I feel this fate? It's 1978. This feeling is so great. The word you preach amazes me. But why do I feel this fate? People believe in their fantasies but not God, and that's the problem. That's why they say that it's too hard. No matter how blazing your love may be, our meetings and conversations are the same, you see. You can't let this love go to waste, doing the same things day to day. We're at the same place. Let's speak with hope about new things and the things you have done. I want to get closer to you, I want to give you my love. If you do not enjoy this love, it will disappear. When your thoughts are hard changes, he will take away your blessing. Gotta find your form, find your mission, and just find your blessings. Let's just get back to the old days and follow the temptation. I wanna get to know you, I want to show you that I can give you the word in many places, many spaces. I have seen a lot of people come and go. You're gonna make it, do your absolute best to reach the final destination. Yeah, it's 1978. This feeling is so great. The word you preach amazes me. But why do I feel this fate? It's 1978. This feeling is so great. The word you preach amazes me. But why do I feel this fate? Can I get to know you? I just wanna know you. Can I get to know you? I just wanna know you. Can I get to know you? I just wanna know you. Can I get to know you? I just wanna know you.
All right, so let's get into our final segment for today, which is the segment of world news. And we're going to go over 3 different news topics that are coming around. I think that are pretty big deals, right, for what is going on right now. And the first one has to do with Russia and the Ukraine, and a new peace plan is going to be put in place. And there's an updated peace plan that came from the U.S., and it looks like the Ukraine, from news sources, says they will eventually take it, right? And like the news article starts with, Donald Trump wants a peace deal in Ukraine very badly. Kyiv wants peace even more, just not at any cost. Right? That's why when the U.S. began pushing it to agree to a deal by Thanksgiving on what looked close to surrender terms, Ukraine pushed back. It scrambled senior officials to talks in Geneva, and all of Sunday, we saw delegates from the U.S., Ukraine, shuttling back and forth between the 2 main venues in black limousines with darkened windows. They were joined by national security advisors from Germany, France, and the U.K., and it's very, very interesting, right? Because the starting proposal on the table was so skewed towards Russia's demands, the talks began with the U.S. Secretary of State having to deny it had been written by the Kremlin. But President Trump had been clear that Ukraine needed to sign up fast or face unspecified consequences, so Kyiv had to engage. So on Sunday night, Secretary of State declared there had been tremendous progress in the talks with just a couple of things still outstanding. When pressed, he wouldn't be more specific, calling the situation delicate. But a joint Ukraine-U.S. statement says there's now a whole new deal in play, which it calls an updated and revised framework document. They haven't seen it yet, but the Financial Times newspaper quotes one of the delegates, Ukraine's deputy foreign minister, who talks of a new 19-point plan with very little left from the original draft, and that the new document likely incorporates at least some of the amendments proposed by the Europeans and published by Reuters news agency that point to something far more palatable for the Ukraine. Right? So in that version, they say there's like an automatic veto on future Ukrainian NATO membership. That is gone. as well as a cap on troop numbers for the country's armed forces. It says no Western troops will be deployed to Ukraine permanently, but that's not an all-out ban. So there's a lot of these things that are coming out. Full amnesty for war crimes is deleted too. So it looks like there is something that is on the horizon, and it's something that we can look at and say, oh, wow, this could be very, very interesting also. In the second news, second and third is all about Korea. But the first one is about what's happening in North Korea. So first thing is, in South Korea, there's something called monster missiles. Okay? So what it says here is the president of Korea has highlighted the U.S.-backed security policy of extended deterrence, a promise by Washington to use the full spectrum of its military capabilities, including nuclear forces, to defend South Korea, right? And that's why South Korea doesn't want to develop nuclear weapons. Seoul is banking on ever more powerful conventional arms. So there's something called the monster missiles, right? So the South Korean defense minister basically said that he firmly believes that they should possess a considerable amount of these Hyunmoo 5 monster missiles to achieve a balance of terror. So it's not nuclear, but there are these monster missiles, right? So what does that mean for North Korea? Well, now what they see is North Korea is making nuclear upgrades. So from space satellites, they're taking pictures of North Korea, and they see there's a lot of upgrades that are happening in the nuclear sites in North Korea. So the satellite imagery suggests North Korea has spent the past year steadily enlarging and modernizing its main fission material site in what analysts call a concrete response to leader Kim Jong-un's demand for his nuclear arsenal's exponential growth. Right, commercial satellite images of the Nuclear Scientist Research Center from October-November show renovation and large-scale expansion across the complex, according to a website from the U.S. They think a U.S. think tank devoted to analyzing North Korea, and they say basically the improvements all serve to help fulfill the Kim Jong-un's call for exponential growth of its nuclear weapons arsenals. Right. So that is quite interesting how, once again, these types of battles are happening. Like people in Korea and South Korea is, it almost feels like it's never ending. Okay. So that's another news that's happening between North and South Korea. Last news in South, this is a big one, is, and I think this has to do with God's judgment, is South Korea's most prolific online sex criminal sentenced to life in prison. So the leader of a Telegram sex crime ring, which facilitated the exchange of thousands of sexual abuse materials, has been sentenced to life imprisonment in South Korea. And this guy who's in charge is only 33. And he's in charge of the so-called vigilantes, a large-scale pyramid-style group that blackmails victims into producing explicit content and sharing it online chat rooms, right? So between May 2020, January 2025, the vigilantes exploited at least 261 individuals, the largest number of cyber sex exploitation victims in South Korea's history. And under the self-designated title of, he calls himself, Pastor Kim, was found to have carried out systematic crimes, including sexual assault of minors and the distribution of images that show child sex abuse, right? So he was sentenced on Monday to life imprisonment. Thank God, right? So, man, at 33, such a young age, he is, thank God that he's been caught. Like there's child victims too. And it's something that they said the quantity of sexually exploitative materials produced by them exceeded 2,000 pieces of media. And as the ringleader, he said that he also sexually assaulted 10 underaged women, forced women to do different things too, right? And filmed himself committing brutal acts that caused injury also. And he said that he is found to have participated in at least 453 Telegram channels and chat rooms for the purpose of committing his crimes, 60 of which he operated personally. So this case marks the first time Telegram has cooperated with South Korean police, providing crime-related data that facilitated further investigations and led to Kim's arrest. The Korean National Police Agency established a formal system of investigative cooperation with Telegram in October 2024, enabling the platform to officially provide authorities with relevant information. Thank God. Thank God. Right? So, that is, God is cleaning up. And I hope that we will realize and recognize this really well too, that it is happening, and we can look into our own countries to see how God is cleaning up things right now at the end of 2025 also. All right? So there it is, guys. That is the end of today's world news and for the entire Wednesday podcast. Hope you guys had an amazing and awesome day, and I hope you guys will have one, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and feel your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, I'm on the Morning Star Drive, I'm burning with desire and the passion.